So there's a long history of arguments that are a form of design reasoning that pick up on various features of the world and say that they seem to bear the hallmarks of design, and people draw the inference that probably they in fact are designed. That is, we have to appeal to a supernatural or cosmic designer to account for those features. Notoriously, biological life itself has been one such target of design reasoning, and many have taken it to be conclusively refuted by the theory of biological evolution, which gives a non-purposive, non-design explanation for what looks to be designed. But there's a more recent style of design argument that doesn't seem vulnerable. It's rather more interesting because it doesn't seem vulnerable to the possibility of a kind of physical explanation that we haven't yet dreamed up, because it takes as its starting point not some particular feature of our universe, but very fundamental facts, or what appear to be very fundamental facts concerning the physical universe. And it draws on what physicists themselves say about these facts, namely that they are fine-tuned for life. And what they mean by that is that these facts, there are very large numerical constants that show up in the fundamental laws, things like 10 to the 40th power, very, very large numbers, 10 followed by 40 zeros, or that there's an exquisite balancing of particle ratios that have to be more or less just as they are for life to have eventually developed in our universe. And this is quite striking. It's as if there's a vast space of possibilities of how the universe might have been at a fundamental physical level by chance, and our universe, the one we know about, just so happens to be in a very, very small region that is life-sustaining, that allows for the possible life. The universe has just what it takes, more or less. And so people sometimes draw the inference, therefore, that this seems to call out for a designer. Why? Well, it's not so surprising that there would be a universe having just what it takes for life, and then ultimately intelligent, purposive life such as ourselves to come about if there were a cosmic world designer. It seems like the kind of target a world designer might go for, but it seems extremely unlikely to have just happened by chance. That's the basic structure of the argument.
Now you also touched on multiverse theory, and there's clearly quite a lot of interest in that whole area at the moment. Could you just say a word about how the fine-tuning argument relates to multiverse theory? If it turned out there were multiverses, would that invalidate the argument, or are they compatible, or how do they relate?
Right. Many proponents of multiverse thinking in physical cosmology, there's scientific basis for speculating about there being universes or physical realities beyond the visible universe going all the way back to the Big Bang. But many people think an interesting side byproduct of this theorizing, if it turns out to be correct, is that the design argument based on fine-tuning would no longer have any force. The reason they think that is they say, look, if physical reality encompasses not just our universe, but a vast, enormous number of universes that involve slightly different physical laws, different ratios of particles, the very sorts of factors I talked about earlier, then it might be not so surprising if we have a large enough number of them and they take on a sort of random sampling of all the possibilities, that at least one of the universes would happen to have just what it takes to fall within those very narrow parameters for there to be life. So there would be no special reason to invoke a cosmic designer hypothesis. It's not an argument that there is no such designer. It's just simply saying we would no longer have any motivation based on fine-tuning for positing such a cosmic designer. I think that's not right, or at any rate, it depends. It will depend very heavily on the character of the physical theory that involves multiverse theorizing before we could decide whether it really does invalidate fine-tuning designer reasoning. Physicists, they posit some sort of primordial reality, pre-Big Bang, and they describe. There are different ideas about what that might be like. Some high-end people talk about different possibilities, but the theories posit properties of these pre-Big Bang physical realities that turn out to be fine-tuned themselves, or at least on current theorizing, right? So it seems like it doesn't really do away with the need for accounting for fine-tuning. It just kicks it back one level. It says we can do away with the need to explain fine-tuning at the level of the universe, but in terms of the reality that generates that, it looks exquisitely fine-tuned. So, and one needs to recognize that the Klein hypothesis is compatible with a multiverse. A cosmic world designer, God, choose to create not just but many, a vast many universes. So since they're compatible, and there still seems to be unexplained tuning, if the original reasoning were at all probative, if it had any force, then it would seem to apply at this level too. Now it's possible that future theorizing would posit a primordial reality that didn't have very exquisite fine-tuning. Okay. So this style of argument is vulnerable. It's important to recognize. It's vulnerable to refutation by future physical theorizing.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for your lecture and for your time now.
Okay.